Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here today on the Secrets to Selling Microsoft Dynamics series from MS Dynamics World. And we have an excellent session here today, automated testing for finance and operations. So I think it's a great topic. It's a timely topic, and I've got the team from TheTestMart helping me out on this one. So I'll just kind of quickly go through our agenda. We're going to have an introduction to the ATS market. We're going to talk about finding and qualifying opportunities in the Dynamics channel. We'll have a couple of customer case studies and more information, especially around the TestSmart. So we've got Nick and Scott here to help us out, and I'll get Nick to introduce himself first.
Yep. How you doing, everyone? My name is Nick Vaccaro, VP of Sales here at TheTestMart. I've been with the company for about 2 years now, and yeah, really looking forward to today's session.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Scott.
Hey everyone, Scott Boedigheimer, Chief Revenue Officer with TheTestMart. Been in the channel for over 20 years, and happy to be here today as well. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk around, the subject of what are some of the issues our customers are having today and why testing is so important. So Nick, take us through this slide.
Yeah. So, three main kind of concerns we're hearing from a lot of the customers that we speak to today is one being the frequency of updates. So, recently, Microsoft just changed their update cycle to 4 major releases, as well as those monthly quality updates as well. So, constantly having to test, and it's really becoming quite the burden on a lot of teams. Second would be the risk of being forced into an update. So now that you can only skip one update with the new cycle, you're really relying on your team to make sure you're testing in time, and you don't want to be forced into an update. We had a customer come to us recently. They ended up getting forced into an update, ended up crashing their e-commerce site. So they weren't able to take orders for a couple days. So really trying to avoid that and avoid that financial burden that comes with your system going down.
Now
Uh,
that's a costly error, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
they weren't happy about that. So hopefully you guys were able to sort that out. So let's talk a little bit about, an executive summary of this testing marketplace.
Yep. So we've done a lot of research, talking to a lot of customers, especially at some of the different events. So about less than 20% of customers have even attempted to automate their testing. They do have some options such as RSAT, which is the free tool that comes with Dynamics, which has seemed to kind of leave a lot to be desired. Tests are pretty difficult to maintain on that platform. Customers again are struggling with the frequency and timing of those updates, and a lot of the companies that we speak to today, they just don't have a dedicated QA team, so they're really relying on those subject matter experts to being pulled out of the business. So again, really leaving their team with a lot of staff disruption.
Yeah, and that's a good point about, teams availability, and if your partner's testing for you, partner availability, right? These
Exactly.
updates are coming. We've got to get this done now. Do we have people that we can, pull off of other tasks, or can we get somebody from our partners organization to be able to help us? So let's have a quick intro into automated testing.
Yep. So, what is automated testing, right? So, essentially, this is just a software testing technique that involves running a set amount of tests to really look for the changing in functionality and making sure things aren't breaking.
Okay. And in that marketplace today, why is regression tested needing?
Right. So, as Microsoft releases different updates, it could change the code, the way things interact on the page, functionally as well as visually. So you want to ensure that those changes don't break your current environment before you push it to production. Again, we don't want it to lead like the customer I mentioned earlier, where their systems broke and they weren't able to operate properly.
And when we start talking about these updates, Microsoft's not testing for your customizations, and they're not testing for your ISV solutions. So if we look at a finance and operations application, there could be anywhere from 5 to 15 ISVs attached to your instance. So this is really important and a timely conversation. So let's talk about the issues when you're trying to do this manually.
Yeah, so the big thing with manual testing is it's very time consuming, right? So again, you have to pull people out of the business so they're not focusing on their day-to-day tasks, which is not very efficient. With anything where humans are involved, it is prone to errors, may not be intentional, um, but can again leave your environment vulnerable. Uh, and again, it's very hard to kind of keep up with the pace of those releases when you're relying it on manual testing.
Okay. And, from a skill set from a partner or from an end user customer, what skill set do you need for this manual testing?
Right. So you really want to be aware of what changes are occurring. So making sure you're reading those release notes, which is usually a rather lengthy document. So making sure you're seeing what is actually affecting your environment, again, is super time consuming, and you want to make sure you don't miss anything.
So that kind of leads us to the benefits of automated testing. So take us through this.
Yeah, so kind of four main things that we have seen with automated testing is, of course, the speed. So on average, we've seen customers that are doing manual testing taking about a month to test their system, whereas with automated testing, you can bring that down to a couple days. And again, with the accuracy, so you have a defined set of tests. You know that it's going to be ran properly, and you're not going to miss anything. Third would be coverage. A lot of the times when we see companies doing manual testing, they're just focusing on those business critical pieces and may not be testing everything. So, due to the speed, um, you're allowed, it enables you to test more broad range. And lastly, it is just a lot more efficient. You're keeping people in the business. Um, and again, you have that accuracy piece. So.
Okay, great. So, Microsoft suggested resources for testing. Let's kind of go through this.
Yeah, so I believe it was in October they released this list of suggested tools. So here you can see that the TestSmart is on that list, along with LeapWork, a couple of Microsoft tools. You have Selenium, Tricentis, and Executive Automats. So they put together kind of a competitive analysis. Showing what tools will benefit where. So this is right on their website if you wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper in that.
Okay, perfect. And let's talk about some of the limitations.
Sure. So with the free tool RSAT that comes with Dynamics 365, it is rather more accessible. However, it does require you to have some automation experience as well as some testing experience. It's very difficult to scale as like I mentioned, as Microsoft makes changes, changing code, those RSAT tests are going to break. So then your team is then responsible to find what caused the failure, fix that, re-record that process again, test it again. So again, it's pretty time consuming. And then lastly, RSAT was built just for Dynamics 365. So if you do have those ISVs or external systems that you do need to test, that is going to have to be done manually, as RSAT's not compatible with that.
And I think that's your biggest challenge is the limited scope, right?
Yeah,
Because basically there's no I haven't heard of a implementation that is just the application with nothing attached to it, right? And
absolutely.
if I'm trying to train people to test, it's going to be very difficult to use a tool like RSAT as opposed to the TestSmart, where okay, once you learn how to do this, as we keep attaching other ISVs, it's going to pick it up, right? So
Yeah,
I think for the long run, it's going to save a lot of time and effort, not just on the results that you're going to get, but I think the effort of your staff trying to get something that's correct. So, we're going to get into, how to sell testing systems here in a second, but who do we talk to at an organization? Who are the buyers?
right. So, from my experience, we're kind of seeing four main titles, right? So we have the ERP administrator. So they're really going to be in the weeds, not only with the testing, but just the overall health of the ERP system. uh, IT manager, director of IT, and VP of IT, from my experience, are really looking for innovative ways to include automation where it fits, and again, looking at the overall health of the ERP system and where they can improve their processes. So these are the four main titles that I'm personally looking for when trying to find the buyer.
And when we start to meet with people and have this discussion, a lot of times it's going to be our internal evangelist is really going to be that administrator, right?
Yep.
Because they get tied up into this all the time. Last minute, I've got to get this done. I've got to schedule resources, or I become the resource. And
Yep.
then, I get into an overtime situation where, we've got to get this out. So I think everybody understands this. And I think you can pretty much go into talk to any one of these executives and they'll have a conversation around it. Secondly, if I'm a Microsoft partner, if I'm, talking to a customer about an AX upgrade, I'm going to bring in a testing solution right from the beginning because I want to, help my customer, help them with the migration and be as effective and as efficient as I can. And this is going to help you compete. As well, if I have existing customers or if I'm trying to target a customer that I want to talk to who is running finance and operations today, and they're not using automated testing, which the vast majority are not.
Right.
It's a great conversation. Hey, what are you using for automated testing? Oh, we're not. Well, why don't we get together and have a little chat about that? So I think it's a great inroad to an organization and a much needed application.
Yep. Absolutely. And
Okay. So we're going to get into the question model, and this is the question model we're using for all our secrets to selling dynamics. So whether it's AP automation, whether it's mobility, or any other product around dynamics, this model works because we're not looking for a salesperson to become an expert, or partner salesperson to become an expert on automated testing, but we want to be able to uncover the opportunities, find qualified opportunities, and go talk to you, Nick, and say, hey, Nick, can you help us with this opportunity? So we broke it down into three types of questions. CCR questions to help better understand the opportunity. First, circumstance questions find out the details about the prospect's existing conditions. Challenge questions better understand the prospect's current and future business challenges. ROI questions, which aren't really questions, they become the ROI conversation. These ask about the expected ROI or return on investment the prospect expects from the solution. And it's been my experience using these types of questions. The customer really opens up, and we end up having a conversation where the customer's doing 80% of the talking, we're doing 80% of the listening. And that's where we really want to go with this. So let's kind of go in the first circumstance questions and find out the details about the prospect's existing conditions. So we might start off with, what Microsoft Dynamics ERP system do you currently use? Easy way to start a conversation.
yep.
Can you describe your current automated testing system and processes? Who does the testing? How many times does it take your staff to complete a current process? How do you monitor for accuracy, compliance, and inconsistencies? Can you cover most scenarios and functionality? And how do you currently produce test reports, which is really crucial when we're trying to do this manually? And do you track the costs of current testing methods? Now, Nick, what questions here do you like to focus in on?
Yep. So, of course, that first one's a big one. You want to, make sure you know which system they're leveraging. One you mentioned too towards the end there is the reporting. What we've seen is a lot of companies struggle with not only the reporting but having that up to date process documentation. It seems to be, a major struggle. And then so the next one would be, who's doing the testing. So how many people are involved? Again, how much time it's taking to test. So really digging in on getting to understand their current process.
Okay, great. So now we're going to get into the challenge questions. And if you've seen any of my previous videos in this series, I talk about this corridor, right? The first set of questions we ask, very simple questions to find out what's going on with the business. Now the customer is going to take us down that hallway or corridor to talk about different areas within the subject. And once we get there, new doors will begin to open. So we want to get into some challenge questions to better understand the prospect's current and future business challenges and whether they see this as a challenge to, what they're doing around testing. So we may ask, what are some of the challenges, issues, problems that you have concerning human errors and inconsistencies, the risk of inadequate testing, timely and available staff for testing, and the time and cost of testing. And the way we want to ask the questions is we don't want to kind of ask them one after another. We want to kind of follow the challenge questions after we come in and talk around the circumstance questions, and just let the customer have that conversation and share with us. So, Nick, any comments on these questions?
Um, yeah, so I mean, the big one that I see here is, the time and availability of the resources. Again, that seems to be one of the major issues. I put out a poll actually the last week or two, and that was the biggest challenge that we've seen, is that time and resource.
Yeah. And remember, we're trying to get the customer to think about the ROI here.
Yep.
What's the value of, having manual testing or automated testing over manual testing? Like if we have this type of conversation, they're going to start putting a dollar value in their head. Or if they're not concerned about what we call the dollar value, they're probably concerned about time, right?
Yep.
Who is doing this and how accurate is it? And what kind of headaches is it causing my staff and myself? Which leads to what we call the ROI questions, which is what is that return on investment? And, it's more of a conversation. Again, we're not interviewing at this point. We're really, continuing the conversation. So if your testing processes were automated, how would this improve? Process accuracy, compliance, the accuracy and timing of tests, end user productivity, satisfaction levels, and support, or use of staff time on more pressing business requirements. And Nick, any comments about the ROI conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is getting them to understand that they can keep people in the business focusing on their day-to-day projects instead of having to be bogged down multiple times a year with this testing. So,
Okay, perfect. So this is a slide which is I think is really important because again, we don't expect every Dynamics salesperson to be an expert on testing. We just need to know how to have that conversation. And once we find out, what is the lay of the land at this prospect, then I can go to my friend Nick and say, Nick, please come in and let's talk to the customer about automated testing. So when I'm sitting through a questioning period with a prospect or existing customer, what's your testing readiness? Is this something that you think should be done? What's your testing history? How have you done it in the past? And again, we're going to see the problems or troubles that they've had. Who are the stakeholders in this initiative? And what's the decision making process? Like, how do we have to go through and understand how to actually sell to them? What's their current technology landscape? And that matter, where are they now? Where are they going to be over the next, 18 to 36 months? Very, very important in this conversation, especially when we're trying to add value. What are the ROI drivers? After our conversation, where do they really see the ROI in automated testing? Are we looking at any competitors? What's happening around budget and timelines? Is this something that they're actively looking for, that they have a timeline for when they want to roll it out, and they've put a budget aside, which kind of all leads to positioning. So when Nick and his team comes in to have that conversation, we know how to position ourselves successfully and move the opportunity forward. So now let's go and talk a little bit about the TestSmart and why partners need to get involved with you.
yeah, absolutely. So, the TestMart's a little bit different to some of our competitors as we have kind of a managed service on top of our platform. So, you're not simply just getting the tool, but you're also getting that service on top. So, that starts right from implementation. So we have a couple different ways to get a customer up and running really quickly. First would be to leverage our library of standard test templates. So right now we have over 300 test templates that they can then go in, grab which ones they want, and then the TestSmart team would go ahead and configure it for them. So these are not just limited to Dynamics 365. We also have some for some ISVs as well. Second would be to leverage our AI wizard tool. So what this is going to do is it's going to scan your environment, looking at what modules are being leveraged, and then recommend tests from our base library. So that's a way that you can get started really quickly. Third would be to leverage our recorder tool. So this is similar to Task Recorder within Dynamics. However, it's a lot more robust in what it can capture, but also allows you to capture processes outside of Dynamics. So the TestSmart is not just limited to Dynamics 365. And lastly, if you did give RSAT a try and it didn't work out, we can actually convert those scripts for you. Or if you had your processes documented in a Word document or Excel file, if it is detailed enough, we can take that from you as well and convert it.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about how you maintain test scripts.
Yep. So this is the big differentiator between us and our competitors is we actually will maintain your test for you by version. So as Microsoft releases a new version, we're getting access to it, looking behind the hood at any interaction, functional or visual changes, anything that would affect your environment. And we're going to fix that for you in the background. So ensuring that it's constantly going to be working for you across each version.
So, what I think it's important here is that your team specializes in Dynamics, F&O, finance and operations, finance and supply chain, whatever we want to call it, right?
Yes,
Um, that's what you're focused on. Therefore, you understand the update cycles. You understand how the partners are working with it, and you're working with partners. Where a lot of your competitors, they test everything, right?
correct.
And then, I'm sure they're not as focused on this solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So we execute the tests and report on the results. Tell us about that.
Yep. So the TestSmart will run your tests for you when you're ready to upgrade. However, you do have the option to come into the tool at any point and run it as much as you'd like. But when we execute your tests during those major updates, we'll actually send you a full report highlighting any changes that affected your specific environment. So giving you a nice consolidated list of everything that's changed. You'll get side-by-side comparisons highlighting, say you went from 36 to 38, letting you know what changed there. Um, and again, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to get up to date process documentation. So with each test that's run, your team will get a video, Word document, and PDF of everything that happened during that execution of the test.
So this is not something that your competitors would do then.
Um, Not necessarily. So some of them do have reporting. However, ours is a lot more in depth of what specific changes on your actual environment. So we're making sure you have
Okay,
full visibility.
beautiful. All right, so let's look at the full Dynamics 365 test automation, Azure, PDF, and ISVs.
Yep. So a couple frequently asked questions we get is can we integrate into Azure DevOps, which we absolutely can. So you can have your results sent right to DevOps so your team can go and take a look at it. Like I mentioned earlier, we do provide video, PDF, and Word documentation for your team. And again, we can tie into any web-based ISV or integration and handle any of the customizations that are on your environment.
Okay, excellent. And let's talk about generative AI powered platforms because this is at the top of many people's minds going forward.
Yep. Yeah. So the main thing I want to highlight here is we are leveraging AI to, improve not only the building of the tests, but also, the execution and maintenance of those tests. So we do have proprietary LLM technology that we're looking at when everyone's running their tests to look for ways we can improve and just better the overall experience of automated testing.
And because your focus is on Microsoft and on this product, I'm sure you're really staying close to that Microsoft AI roadmap.
Yep, absolutely. So we're definitely working alongside Microsoft, again, to have the best product available on the market.
Okay, so let's talk about a few case studies.
Sure. So typically, like I mentioned, when we're working with customers that are coming from manual testing, we're seeing them take about a month to, um, run that testing cycle. With some other solutions such as RSAT, you are bringing that down. Whereas with the TestSmart, since you're really just having someone review the results after we execute your tests, you can do that in a day or even a few hours. Now, when you look at to the diagram on the right, the time it takes to update those tests. So again, with the manual effort, you have to run through every single test, making sure it's working properly. A tool like RSAT, things will break. You have to go back, fix them, which again takes a good amount of time. Um, and with the TestSmart, since we're updating those tests for you in the background, we may only need some intervention due to a data change since we're not hosting that. Um, or if it was due to a customization, we may need, you know, some intervention, but then we'll go back and fix it once we get that information from your team.
Okay, beautiful. Um, Here's a quote from one of your customers.
Yeah, so this one's just highlighting kind of like what I said, really bringing down that time. So it used to take this customer 7 people over 2 weeks to validate an upgrade, and now they're just having one person review the results. So again, just keeping people in the business, focusing on their day-to-day tasks, and not being pulled out due to testing.
And there's a big cost to this internally, dealing with 7 people,
Yeah,
and disrupting and project management and knowing what other people are doing. So I think I look at a quote like this and it's a game changer.
absolutely.
Here's a few more quotes.
Yeah, so I won't read these, verbatim, but kind of main thing is our customers are happy. They're continuing to leverage our platform, and um, as they want, new features, we're listening to them so we can improve that as well.
Okay, so you're clearly experienced in this field. So let's talk about how your solution compares.
Yep. So the big pieces that separates us is we're going to be working with your team side by side. So you'll have a specific customer success rep assigned to your account. They're going to be working with you during implementation and beyond. So as you want those maintenance pieces, whereas our competitors, you're simply just getting a tool. Then you're required to train them on that tool. As things break, you have to maintain them yourselves. Um, and we have that kind of AI built in, like we spoke earlier. So, kind of those are the main differences between us and our main competitors.
Okay, and I'm sure you can provide this chart for any partners that would like to delve a little deeper into it.
Yep, yep, that is listed right on our website. So,
Okay, and then some cost comparisons here.
yep. So when looking at kind of the not only the initial cost, but cost to continue the platform, right? With our competitors, since you do have to have that maintenance kind of on your team, it does have a additional cost to it. So you don't only have the licensing to deal with. Whereas with the TestSmart, you're getting everything in one. Everything's included into that price. So a substantial cost saver with the TestSmart.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit more now about finding opportunities and working with your team.
Yep. So what to look for really is companies that are having trouble with completing those updates. Ones that have been complaining that it's a lot of effort involved. It's hard on their team to kind of find time to do these updates. Have they had troubles with defects in the past that impacted their business, like the customer I mentioned earlier? um, and how if they really want to reduce the risk that comes with these updates. Uh, so just looking for those across, not only LinkedIn, maybe leveraging Yammer as well. Just trying to find the right opportunities.
Okay, great. And size of opportunities.
Yep. So there's a kind of major shift coming from AX to Dynamics 365 as Microsoft recently ended support for AX. So we're seeing a kind of massive migration of companies going to D365. So um, when you look at that and combined with only 20% of the companies that are already live on Dynamics, leveraging automated testing, there's a major, major opportunity there.
Okay, great. So are we going to talk a little bit about the opportunity to partner? And I think Scott's going to lead us through this.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, so our tool is not industry specific. It fits every industry, every niche that's out there. And so there's an opportunity really for every partner out there in the market. The second piece there, outsource testing for your clients at a fixed fee is another opportunity. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this automated testing, helping your clients, reselling it. But this one's really doing outsource testing. We ran into a partner recently that is all they do is outsource testing for their customers. And that's a defined service that they offer. So if you're interested in providing that service to customers, your own customers or other customers, there's a market opportunity just to do outsourced testing because of all the problems we identified earlier. Another one would be updates as a service. So customers we mentioned are struggling with updates in general. Another opportunity for partners would be to bundle the update service with the testing and provide an update as a service to their clients at whatever frequency they want. Fourth option there on the top right, increase your annual support contracts to include testing. So a number of customers today could potentially license those services from a partner and add to an existing support contract, for example. On the bottom row there's a couple other opportunities. You can certainly create a partner industry specific library of tests. So if you have a solution accelerator or some IP as a partner that's unique and different that you want to include in those tests, you can certainly do that as well. You can use it for internal use testing for yourself. So if you're building those solution accelerators, the TestSmart tool is available to help make sure those builds are tested appropriately before you send them out to customers. You can also build a partner library of tests for clients and upsell the TestSmart tool. So we have a number of customers that are ISVs too, that are including the TestSmart results in their ISV tool to help their customers understand that, hey, we've tested this on this version of Dynamics. It works fine. Here's a video of what that looks like. And then the bottom right, we do offer margin. And I'll talk about this on the next slide as well. We do offer margin on our software for the life of the customer.
And Scott, I just want to say, that top line.
Yeah.
If I'm a partner and I'm not offering outsourced testing or testing as a service, then a competitor could come into my accounts and offer that. And I think the last thing I want is that competitor building that type of relationship with my customers.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your partner program.
Yeah. So we offer 30% commission on closed contracts if the partner closes it themselves. So, and they find the opportunity, they do the demos, they do all the pitch. We'll offer a 30% commission to our partners. 20% referral fee for any partner that just says, hey, Nick and Scott, we have an opportunity with a particular customer. We'd like to turn that over to you or work side by side with us on those opportunities. And we do both. We have some partners that want to be very involved in those calls and they sit in on those calls, and others that just say, here you go. It's a great customer, but you guys know what you're doing. Take it and run with it. The middle row there, we talked about it reducing the effort in testing and reducing the amount of time. One of our partners has a lot of fixed fee engagements with customers, and they were able to reduce the amount of time that they need to spend on their team testing those updates as part of that support contract. So they've reduced their efforts significantly and kept the price to the customer the same. And the last part there, we're really working on it, the next iteration of the TestSmart. What does that look like? Creating specific libraries of tests for a partner that has a solution accelerator or wants to offer that service and differentiate themselves, or even a white labeled solution powered by the TestSmart. So look for those kind of developments here early in 2024 as we continue to evolve our partner program.
Okay, Scott, thank you. And thank you, Nick. That was an outstanding presentation. And I've got to think that if I'm a partner and I'm not offering automated testing or I'm not offering the TestSmart, we need to have a conversation. So there's Scott's information and there's Nick's information on the screen. So, gentlemen, thanks for your time today. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from a lot of partners about automated testing.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Have a great day. Bye.